It's something you would never expect to see in American democracy. We have witnessed right before our eyes, and by the way, Trump says, don't believe what you see or hear, only believe what I tell you. Well, I think you should believe what you see right now. And it's a scene that you might expect in 1930s Italy or 1930s Germany or in China or in Russia or in another autocratic regime, North Korea. It's something you would never expect to see in American democracy. And quite frankly, you know, I've studied our democracy from the founding to the present, and some pretty horrific things have happened. And but
get to the point.
One has to be hard-pressed to see what happened to a United States senator who did nothing more than try to ask a question at a press conference headed by Kristi Noem, the head of DHS, who said that habeas corpus means we can deport anyone we want. Of course you want to ask her questions.
Right.
But don't just listen to me. Watch this footage, and you'll be as shocked as I am.
Exaggerated and embarrassing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your
I also want to
hands off.
how many of our ICE agents have been docked.
Now, this is the worst part yet.
Hands behind your back.
Watch this.
Hands behind your back.
He's long out of the room. He
He
obviously presents no danger, no threat to anyone. He hasn't committed any crimes, and yet there they are, three men and a fourth standing there, throwing this, I'm not sure how old he is, but he ain't a young guy, throwing him to the ground and handcuffing him. You know, it's not as horrific, but it does bring back memories of what they did to George Floyd, right? When they threw him on the ground and kept their knee on him. You would never expect to see this in America. He identified himself as a United States Senator. He had a perfect right to be at a public meeting and to ask a question. And even if you thought, and I can't imagine how anyone who believes in our freedoms could have thought that he should have been forcibly removed from the room by who knows who they were, armed officers of some kind, several of them. There was absolutely zero justification, once he's out of there, for throwing this guy on the ground, you know, risking injury.
Not just a guy, a senator, a U.S. senator.
Who identified himself as a United States
Right, that's
senator.
something that a lot of people have been calling out Kristi Noem for. She went on to Fox News and claimed that he never identified himself. And, I mean, it's pretty clear in this footage that he says his name pretty clearly. I mean, whether she heard it or not.
Let's play that again.
Embarrassing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary.
That was pretty clear.
There it is.
I am Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions.
Could not
That's pretty
be
clear.
But remember, this is a woman who claimed that habeas corpus means exactly the opposite of what it does. So she has zero credibility.
You think she just didn't hear him? Or you think she's just actively lying about it?
I think she's actively lying. I give
Right.
no credence to what she might say. You know, she has no credibility whatsoever. And then look at Mr. Smug Mike Johnson. You know, behind
Screw that guy.
Oh, he is so smug. And behind that smug interior is a monster. And I use that word advisedly. What did he say should be done to Gavin Newsom if he couldn't arrest him?
Tarred and feathered.
Tar and feather him. This is a guy who claims to be guided by the teachings of Jesus. Is that something Jesus would say?
Give me a break.
Just the opposite. Turn the other cheek. Love your neighbor. Be kind. And tar and feathering is one of the most horrific punishments you can mete out to anyone. That's why for hundreds of years, civilized countries have banned it. If you survive it at all, you're going to live the rest of your life branded and in agony. Can you imagine advocating tar and feathering and then claiming to stand up for law and order and lying about the event, which everyone can see? He wasn't lunging at Kristi Noem. He wasn't posing any danger. He was very clear in saying, I'm a Senator Padilla, and I just want to ask her a question.
Yeah, I mean, she said he lunged at it. I mean, we only get the video from this vantage point, but it doesn't look like he's lunging towards her or anything.
Yeah, and you got all these police officers or whoever they are. I think, since they don't identify themselves.
I think this guy who's grabbing him in the front is probably like a Secret Service guy.
Who knows?
This guy, I don't even know who this guy in the black suit is.
Yeah, they don't wear identification. We don't know who they are.
This guy, he's got an earpiece.
He may be Secret Service. Who knows? I'm not,
I don't know who this guy is. I mean, none of them are marked with anything.
No. And when they grab people off the streets, they often wear masks.
Well, that's the ICE agents, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's just reminiscent of the black shirts.
Here
and the brown
you can
shirts.
see a guy wearing an FBI vest. I don't know if you can see that.
Right, but that's not one of those who's... And now look at this. Throwing him to the ground after he's out of the room obviously poses no danger to anyone. He isn't armed.
These two guys must be Secret Service because
who knows?
They have earpieces, but they're not wearing any sort of...
Yeah, they may or may not be. And
this guy shows up. I don't know who this guy is. He's got some sort of
Yeah, we have no
badge.
idea.
Oh, he also says
One
FBI.
says FBI.
Yeah.
We don't know who the guy on the left is.
These two guys say FBI. I'm assuming this guy's Secret Service. I mean, he has a gun and an earpiece.
Maybe. I'm not disputed. And these are the same people who think this was an act of grave danger that required major military intervention, who thought that the January 6th insurrectionists, who are actually hurting and maiming 140 police officers, were just doing their patriotic duty.
These guys don't give a crap about law and order.
None. And they pardon them.
Police. Yeah.
They pardon the people who violently attacked police officers and yet claimed this guy should be manhandled. A U.S. senator who had done nothing wrong.
U.S. senator from the state of California. We're supposed to have co-equal branches of government. Why can't a senator who is supposed to be part of a co-equal branch have some say during a press conference from the federal government?
Of course he should have. Just like the congresswoman who was trying to inspect a federal facility. Representative MacGyver, right? An African-American woman who was just trying to do her lawful duty as a member of a co-equal branch of government and inspect a federal facility that was also under suspicion because it wasn't certain that they had their health and inspection certificates renewed. And are you telling me, we saw the footage of that too, that this woman, surrounded by these huge guys with guns, was posing some real danger to these forces. And now she's indicted on 3 counts.
What's her name? I'm going to try to look it up.
Representative MacGyver.
How do you spell that?
MacIver. Let's show her, this dangerous person.
Let's see if I can find it.
There she is. Yeah, really posed a grave danger to all of these big, burly, armed ICE officers, none of whom were injured in the slightest, unlike the 140 police officers injured in the January 6th insurrection. They also arrested the mayor of New Jersey, of Newark, but they dropped those charges, realizing how flimsy they were. These charges are equally flimsy. This is again reminiscent of using and abusing the legal system to hurt people and only intimidate them and advance your own political agenda. These are the kinds of things we never, ever should see in the United States. This is what you see in authoritarian regimes.
This is her in the red here. And
yeah, look at all these police officers. She's really, posing a grave threat to them, isn't she?
It doesn't even look like she's moving.
She's not doing anything. And there's like 10 police officers around her.
I guess there she's trying to get in.
Just trying to get in.
Push her way in. That was a little incriminating, that shot of her trying to get in, maybe a little bit.
But she's had a right to get in.
Yeah.
That's the point. She wasn't posing a danger to anyone by trying to get in. Look at all those big, huge armed officers around her. You telling me she was endangering them?
No, I don't believe.
If you believe that, guess what I've got to sell you?
No, I completely do not believe that she was presenting any type of danger to these folks. And like I said, she's part of a co-equal branch of government. Why?
Exactly. She had a right to be there, a right to go in. She was not trespassing.
She's a federal politician. This is
a federal office holder.
Right. This is a federal facility.
Look at all these big, huge guys around her. None of whom, were threatened in any significant or even minor way. Come on.
No, I agree with you.
There
was a moment there where she looked like maybe she was pushing a little bit.
The most minor way. She's being charged with crimes that could put her in prison for more than 10 years.
Right.
For that.
No, I agree. It's crazy.
January 6th insurrectionists who injured, maimed police officers, led directly or indirectly to some deaths. They're all heroes who should be pardoned.
I guess my point is she should have been allowed into the facility.
This should never have happened. Exactly. All they had to do was let her into the facility.